Hey guys, welcome back for another episode of Not the Girl Next Door. I'm your host, Meg Reynolds, and as you guys know, on Not the Girl Next Door, we are all about a little bit of tough love, giving you the advice that you know you need, but you probably don't want to hear, and just some raw, authentic conversations and moments. And this week's episode, I have been thinking about for a while because I'm coming up on a lot of milestones in my life and a lot of just really big moments that looking back now, I can see how impactful they were for the trajectory of my life. And it's crazy I don't know what it is about a lot of these moments falling at this time of year for me. But I want to talk about them because, obviously we're in graduation season, and I know there are probably so many, not just young women, but just people out there who are scared right now and fearful of the future, and layoffs are happening right now. There's a lot going on in the world. It's loud, it's chaotic. Everybody is feeling lost and craving connection. And that's what this week's episode is all about. So I'm hoping if you take away anything from this week's episode is that you're reminded to live life on your own terms. Because had I not given myself the permission to live my life the way I wanted to, I would not be where I am today. And more than likely, this podcast wouldn't even exist. As it is, this week at the time this episode's released, it'll be 1 year since I was laid off from iHeartRadio. It'll be 5 years, not just since I graduated college, but obviously since the pandemic in general. It'll be 6 years almost. We're getting towards 6 years since I broke up with my long-term college boyfriend. And it's crazy to see how all those moments really did impact my life. I'm not going to get too much into the college breakup because again, that's 6 years ago at this point, but it's crazy because had that breakup not happened, I know the butterfly effect is happening right now. And I don't know the difference between the butterfly effect and the domino effect, but the butterfly effect is trending on social media. And so here's my butterfly effect. Had my college ex not broken my heart, I would not have had my major cyst rupture that led me to the hospital. Had that cyst not ruptured, I could have potentially died. And going deeper than that, had we not broken up, I wouldn't have been open to the opportunity of moving to Nashville. I would have probably taken that corporate job instead in New York. So I wouldn't have moved to Nashville. I wouldn't have then met my really toxic and abusive ex who just completely destroyed me. And I wouldn't have then sought therapy a year later, and that therapist wouldn't have been able to help me find the courage and find myself. And this podcast wouldn't exist. And I don't know if that's actually the butterfly effect, but I say all that to illustrate just how much your life can change in an instant and how much one moment can really impact the trajectory of your life. So I want to start with reflecting on my college years. In case you don't already know this about me, if this is the first time you're hearing Not the Girl Next Door, I graduated from Syracuse University in 2020 with a degree in television, radio, and film, a minor in creative writing, English literature. I was supposed to go back to Syracuse University to pursue an entertainment law degree. Instead, it was during COVID. I passed up the scholarship back to law school to take my full-time job with iHeartRadio. That was my first job out of college. And I was with iHeart for nearly 4 years until I was laid off last year. But before all of that, I was somebody who could never imagine leaving home. I couldn't fathom the idea of moving away from New York. I had my entire life mapped out. I had my 10-year plan. I was like, hey, cool, I got the boyfriend. I'm going to graduate. I'm going to move to the city and get an apartment, and we're going to live there for a couple years, and then we'll move in together, and then maybe we'll move to the suburbs. Okay, when are we going to get a dog? When are we going to get engaged? When are we going to get married? When are we going to have kids? And that was the only thing I could focus on. And I thought my 20s were going to be the best years of my life. And don't get me wrong, they are now because I've made them that way, because I stopped living by the expectations of others and started living for myself. And I think that's the biggest lie that we have been sold in our adulthood, is that your 20s are going to be this glamorous, you're going to be throwing bills, whatever. Like, your 20s, honestly, for the most part, are pretty miserable. And that sounds pretty bleak, but I think you should understand, like, If anything, that should give you hope because you haven't lived the best day of your life yet when you graduate college. You shouldn't allow yourself to feel like you've peaked in high school or peaked in college, and because there is so much left to live. You haven't lived your best days yet. You haven't met your favorite people yet. You haven't seen half of the world. You have been in this little bubble that you are so comfortable in. And I know how scary it can be to pop that bubble, but you have to do it. You have to pop the bubble of your life because otherwise you are going to miss out on parts of yourself and you are going to miss out on getting to know yourself in ways that you would have never fathomed. And it really shows in my life, the people who have popped the bubble and who have not. And it's, to each their own. You have to live life the way that you choose to, but I am so glad I popped the bubble. Now, I've talked about this book before on the podcast, but I would encourage everybody who is just about to graduate college to read a book by Meg J called The Defining Decade. And it talks all about the ways in which your 20s really do shape the rest of your life. And it's not in the sense of you have to have it all together, you have to have your shit figured out, but it's talking about how each choice we make in our 20s is shaping the path of our life. And while that should not make you fearful to make choices in your 20s, I think if anything, it should make you want to take risks, and it should make you want to venture outside the box, because with each quote unquote failure, you're actually learning something. And if you look at everything that you do as an opportunity to learn something new about yourself, you are going to have a much easier time navigating your 20s than somebody who is just living by the expectations of others and who is so fearful to step out of line of what is expected of them. Because at the end of the day, you are the person that has to live with yourself for the rest of your life. You're stuck. There is no getting rid of you. You are stuck with yourself for the rest of your life. Friends will come and go. Guys will come and go. Everything, like their jobs will come and go. Things in life will come and go, but you are your ride or die till the very end. So you have to be able to live with the choices you make and all of that. I don't know why I said and all of that. That was weird. And you always see this thing too of people saying, I feel like I'm behind in life. I think that's a very common theme, especially when we're graduating college, because, graduating college, it's the first time in our lives where nobody is on the same playing field anymore, right? Like your friends aren't predetermined. Your life path isn't predetermined. For the first time in your life, you are a blank slate. And when I started realizing that, it made me be so much kinder to myself because I'm just figuring it out just like the rest of us. Sure, people are privileged and have more opportunity going forward. But at the end of the day, nothing is guaranteed anymore. In college, you knew exactly what you had to do to get from point A to point B. You knew exactly what you had to do to graduate. Same with high school. Everything was laid out and predetermined for you. Now, it's not. The path forward is so unclear, and that can be really anxiety inducing, but it should excite you because how lucky are we to be able to, for the first time in our lives, do things that feel good for us just because we want to. You don't have to play by the rules anymore because there are no rules. And that's the biggest thing I've learned about my 20s is all of the rules of my 20s, they actually are fucking bullshit societal expectations. And I don't have to abide by it if it doesn't feel authentic to me. And so I say to that phrase, how can you, I feel like I'm falling behind in life. The thing is, you're right on time. How can you be falling behind in life when life isn't a race? Whereas there is no finish line. The finish line is something different to everybody that they want to achieve. So there is no race of how soon you have to get married or get your first promotion or anything like that. There's no race because the rules are non-existent. They're all made up. Life is one giant game of pretend. And so play it however you want. Just like when we were kids, when we would play pretend, we would make shit up as we go along. That's exactly what life is we're just making it up as we go along. That is the biggest thing I realized, even in my career when I was still a corporate girl, looking to the people who were my quote unquote superiors, they were pulling shit out of their ass too. They're figuring it out too. And we were a lot closer in age than I even realized because we were all just doing our best. So if anybody who's graduating college, this is the advice I wish, there's a couple pieces of advice I wish my 21-year-old self had when I was graduating. And I want to go through these points that I wrote down because, like I said, I've talked about this a bunch, how nostalgic I've been lately. And I just think that these pieces of advice could maybe really help somebody. So the first thing is you have your entire life to plant roots. Your 20s are meant for you to plant seeds in different soils and see what works, see what grows out of that soil. And that sounds like a really cheesy analogy, but it's true. Like, you have your entire life ahead of you. Your 20s are the time for you to try new things, go out of the box, like do whatever feels right for you. And if it doesn't work, cool, you learned something, you had an experience, you got a story under your belt. That's amazing. And on the same growth metaphor, take a look around at the people around you. Take a look at your friends, take a look at your classmates, your professors. There are some people that you're going to have the last conversation with and you'll never see them again. That doesn't mean you're not going to follow them on social media, and it doesn't mean that you may not respond to a story or you may not respond to theirs. Like, it just means that you're going to go in different directions than a lot of people in your life. And you may go a different direction than a lot more people than you would realize. And some of them will shock you. And there are others who you may become friends with now. Don't limit the scope of your life based on your current circle, because everybody is on their own and figuring things out for themselves. And at the end of the day, you're going to grow out. You are going to outgrow people. It is inevitable, and that is perfectly okay. In fact, if you aren't doing any sort of growing, more than likely, you're going to be the one that gets left behind because you haven't changed at all. And it's sad to outgrow people. There are so many people in my life who I've outgrown, and I think of them fondly. You know, I wish nothing but the best for them, but we have nothing in common, and the trajectory of our lives is going in completely different ways. And it's okay to outgrow people. You know, just like on TikTok, some people are going to be silent viewers of your life. They're going to watch your life through social media and they're going to be cheering you on from afar. And there's going to be others who are preying on your downfall through social media from afar. You just don't know. So stop worrying about who you're going to outgrow and stuff, and just do what feels good for you. Because again, you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. And I wish I learned that lesson sooner, because there were so many friendships that I fought for. And looking back, I don't know why I was fighting for them. I was the only one fighting. And it caused me so much more heartache than needed to be. This next one's going to hurt. But as much as I love a good self-help book, I love a good podcast, I love a good cutesy Pinterest graphic with a motivational quote, none of that is going to do shit for you. None of that is going to do anything for your life unless you have the discipline to get off your ass and do the hard thing. And I hate to say it, but it's true. None of that is going to change anything in your life unless you get up, start showing up for yourself, have the discipline and a little bit of audacity to chase your dreams. That is the biggest thing. Yes, it is great to look towards external forces for motivation and encouragement and ideas and all that stuff, but nothing in your life is going to change until you make the decision to actually change it. And if you're graduating college, I would seriously encourage you to look at the current path that you're on. Look at whatever job you took. Look at wherever city you're moving to. Look at the decision you are making and sit with it. How do you feel about it? Are you actually excited and hopeful? Of course, a little bit of anxiety and nerves is normal, but do you feel a sense of dread at the trajectory of your life? Looking back now, I felt so much dread about moving to Manhattan, and I could never understand why, because I was like, that's just what you do. You move to the city. That's what people do. But it always just never sat right with me. And I wish I had somebody back then to tell me to listen to that feeling, because I would have changed things a whole lot sooner. The next thing too that I wish somebody told me is that you're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Discomfort's not going to last forever, but it's where you're going to find yourself and find the most growth. The next thing, this is so simple and easy, get your 10K steps in a day. Get off your ass, get your 10K steps. It's not that hard. It's good for you and you know it. And it actually is going to help your physical and mental health a lot more than you realize to just go on a damn walk. Next thing too is, yes, you're going to outgrow people. Yes, you're going to not hear from people as much. But if you're thinking of somebody and you miss somebody, just text them. Send in I'm thinking of you. Send in I miss you. Send in I hope you're doing well. You never know how much somebody needs to hear it. You never know how far that's going to go for somebody. And it may do more than you think it will. The next thing, I kind of said this earlier, but I really want to reiterate it. You're entering a phase of life that you've never been before. The rules go out the window. Nothing applies. Your entire life is about to change, and it's going to be a wild ride, but you have to have patience with yourself. You absolutely need to be kind to yourself. So much of my life, I felt like I wasn't able to celebrate accomplishments. And if I didn't feel like I was worthy of being proud of them. And it's because I realized I felt like I had to achieve them. It wasn't an accomplishment because it was just an expectation of me. I had no choice but to achieve those things. And so I've gotten used to celebrating the little wins. Like I'm about to hit 10K on TikTok. That's exciting. Like it doesn't seem like much, but to put it in perspective, imagine if I was in a room of 10,000 people. That's insane. And looking at the views on videos, like some of my videos are almost at 1 million views. It's like, oh my God, 1 million people have seen my face. That's crazy to think about. You have to celebrate what feels worth celebrating to you. And the people in your life who truly believe in you will celebrate with you. They'll be cheering you on probably when you weren't even cheering yourself on. And you have to pay attention to that. Pay attention to who is the loudest in the room and who is cheering you on the loudest, even when you can't cheer for yourself, because those are the people that you can trust and lean on. I saw kind of closing out the college portion of this episode, and I could do a deep dive of all the silly things I did in college and all the boys I regret hooking up with and the fights I regret having, the friendships I regret letting go of, and the mistakes that I made, the apologies I wish I could say. But the thing is, do I really regret any of it? Because it's led me to where I'm at. And I am so happy with where I'm at that I can't even look at anything in my past and be like, fuck, I wish I could change that, because it's all led me here. And I know there are going to be things down the line that sure, I probably will regret, but it'll lead me to the next great point in my life. And I saw this girl on TikTok who I can't remember her username right now, but she posted a video that really broke my heart because I remember feeling exactly like this. And she was talking about how she feels like she's missing out on so much of her life because she's so hyper-focused on the future. And she's focused on her career and the milestones and setting herself up for success. And she's like, I know those are good things, but I feel like I'm just missing out on so much right now. And I know I felt like that for the longest time. I remember feeling like I was in such a rush and I had a rush to achieve all these things. And it really led me to not being happy. And I've talked about before how I feel younger now at 26. And I think it's because I've stopped worrying about the future so much. I put a lot of pressure on myself still, yes, but not as much as I used to. I don't put and it's a different type of pressure, right? Like I don't put the pressure on myself to have all the answers. I only put the pressure on myself to be working towards my goals. I know I don't know everything. I know I still have so much to learn. And that's another thing I would tell any college student out there is recognize that you don't know shit yet. You don't know anything about the world yet. You still have so much to learn, and the sooner you accept that and the sooner you understand that, the easier time you are going to have navigating your 20s. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to our 20s, everyone has opinions on what you should do, right? You need to be an entrepreneur, but you should have a stable 9-to-5. I say stable. We'll touch on that in a minute. You should have a stable 9-to-5. You should travel the world, but don't forget to save for retirement. And don't forget to put into your 401k, your IRA. Go out to the clubs, but not too much because you need to take care of yourself. Your body is a temple. You can't be hungover. Don't get drunk. It's messy. But make sure you still have some fun. And you should have kids young, but oh wait, no, just kidding. You need to go live your life first. Don't have kids young. Wait a little while. You have your cake and eat it too, but don't forget to log it into your macros because again, we're tracking our protein nowadays. Like there is just so much noise, so much chaos. I'm exhausted just saying those statements, but here's what you need to do. You just need to tell everybody else to shut the fuck up. Shut up. And you need to ask yourself, what do you want for your life? What do you want for your life? If you want to pop out a baby at 23, be my guest. But why are you popping out that kid? Is it because you feel like you have to, or is it because you genuinely feel like you're ready for it? If you never stop listening to all that outside noise, if you never tune that voice out, your life is going to pass you by and you're going to realize you don't know yourself because you've just been living according to these made up bullshit expectations of others. I did that for for the first 20 something years of my life. I was doing that. And all it got me was anxiety, depression, toxic relationships. And I didn't know myself and I hated myself. I couldn't even look in the mirror and say that I loved myself. That is where this podcast all began, was the starting of my healing journey. And healing takes so much longer than any of us realize. And sometimes the damage is self-inflicted. There was a lot of pain in my life that I self-inflicted by sitting at a table that I knew I wasn't welcome at, but I was trying so hard to just fit into that table. So maybe they would notice me. Maybe they would finally accept me in. I should have just gotten up and walked away from the table. So to anybody who is graduating college and they're feeling really scared about entering the world, just do your best. Just do your best. Live authentically to yourself. Trust your instincts. And I promise you, you're going to be just fine. Your 20s are going to be hard, yes. But remember, season 1 of Friends didn't start till they were 26. Sex and the City, Carrie Bradshaw was already in her 30s. You have so much time. You are so young. And I know people say that, and you're probably rolling your eyes at me right now like I'm a fucking parent, but I promise you it gets so much better on the other side of things. And with graduating college comes corporate jobs for many of us. However, that may also mean layoffs. Happy 1 year to me of being laid off from iHeartRadio. Mwah, love that job. I kind of miss it sometimes, but I also knew I outgrew that job. And I was just too afraid to make a move and I didn't know what was in store for me. And so the layoff happened. And I don't think I've told the story yet, but obviously you guys know I am newly re-exploring my faith. And I will never forget when I got the meeting put on my calendar about getting laid off. I prayed for the first time in a long time. And I prayed, I was like, God, please don't take my career from me. If you're listening, don't take it from me. Don't take this career from me. I'll start coming to church. I'll do whatever. Just please don't take my career from me. And then I got laid off and I was like, hello, what are we doing? But in reality, my career was handed to me shortly after. And I'm not saying this, whether you believe in God or not, that's not the point here. But the point is a lot of things when they happen, they're not going to make sense, but they will down the line. Because I told myself I would go freelance in 1 year. If I hadn't gotten laid off, I should be going freelance right now for the first time. I think deep down, I kind of knew I was never going to actually make that choice because it's a risk. And in my mind, it was so much more risky than staying at a stable corporate 9-to-5. But the problem is with corporate, it's kind of a facade, the stability. Yes, you know exactly what you're going to get paid and you know what your finances are going to look like. That's great. But other than that, you're replaceable in corporate America. You're not that unique. Whatever job you're in, there's probably 5 more people down the line who want it, especially right now. Corporate stability there's no protections really. It's, maybe in the past it was more stable, but nowadays it's really not. And when it comes to my career, the thing I love talking about the most when it comes to where I'm at today is nothing I've done has been by the books. I haven't played by the rules at all, which is crazy for me to say because I was such a goody two-shoes growing up. I was such a rule follower. Oh my God, it was so annoying. But nothing has been by the books. And I'm so proud of that because it's allowed me to learn so much, not just about the world, but myself and what I want my business to look like. And I would just encourage anybody to think if they're saying they can't do something, why can't you? Oh, I don't have my degree in it. Okay. And go read a book. Oh, I've never done it before. Okay. Start learning. There's nothing you can't do so long as you have a little bit of audacity and a little bit of the delusion to believe in yourself that you can chase your dreams. There's absolutely nothing you can't do. All you need in life is, it's not faith, trust, and pixie dust. It's audacity, delusion, and what should the third thing be, guys? yeah, I guess trust in yourself. So it's not faith, trust, and pixie dust. It's audacity, delusion, and trust in yourself. That's all you need. I think for so long too, I defined myself. Like my career was such a big piece of my identity. And a lot of people feel like that. And then when they get laid off or they're looking to leave, they're like, but I don't know who I am. It's the same thing when you get out of a relationship. Like a lot of people are in a toxic relationship with corporate America, unfortunately. And that's why I would encourage everybody to have your little side quests, be like a little more like T-Pain and have all these random side quests that you do, things that just feel good for your soul. You don't necessarily have to make money at it, but why not just try it? I think so many people hold themselves back from doing things that they love simply because they feel like they're not going to be good at it. And who cares? Who's to even say what's good at it? Are you trying to be like fucking famous for, I don't know, crocheting? Who cares? Just do it because it makes you happy. Today's world is so worried about being cringe, but I think being cringe, it's just the cost of being seen for your creativity. Like what's cringe to one is cool to somebody else. Who's to say what cringe actually is? Like just do what you love and live your life, because at the end of the day, again, you have to live with yourself for the rest of your life. In corporate America, when I got laid off, I was so scared. And I can't believe it's coming up on June will be the full 1 year of me launching Nextdoor Creative, which is crazy to say. But I look back on the work that I was doing then to now, my skills are night and day. I never thought I would be capable of doing what I am now. And it makes me so excited for another year down the line. What am I going to have learned? Being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, it comes with its own set of challenges outside of, financial up and downs, but it's taught me so much about myself. And I think it's made me have so much more secure boundaries and, just not being afraid to put myself first, because especially when you're an entrepreneur, it is so easy to let your self-care go to the back burner. So easy to just lose yourself in building your business. But at the end of the day, you can't have a successful business if you're not taking care of yourself. It is going to crash and burn at some point. And there are so many lessons that I learned in my first year of business, which if you guys want an entire episode on me recapping my first year as a freelancer, let me know. I may do it anyways, but what I will say about the layoff is it was the biggest blessing in disguise. And I remember when I got laid off, people were constantly telling me that. And I was like, can you just shut up? Like sometimes you just want to sit in the suck a little bit. You just want to be pouty and embracing the suck and being like, yeah, this stinks. And you know what? It did. It fucking sucked getting laid off. But you know what else it did? It launched me onto a path that I would have denied myself simply because I was too scared to let myself have it. And so if you are somebody who is facing a layoff right now and you're having a hard time finding a job, I would encourage you, yes, keep looking, maybe take something part-time. But if you have an okay severance, now is the time to try something new. Now is the time to maybe start that business that you're so afraid of. And I know it is always so much easier said than done, especially if you're struggling with debt and bills and kids and all of these things. But there's never going to be an easy nor a right time to start something new. At the end of the day, you have to do it just for yourself, because it's so much better to say, oh, well, instead of a what if I did that. And now for the biggest piece of this episode is May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think it's really funny that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I was thinking about this before I started recording, because it's like, okay, so not only do we have all these graduations happening right now, but also spring and people's personalities are defrosting. And I'm like, oh, did they put this in this month because people are finding the will to live again? That's probably a bad joke. I may cut that. But anywho, when it comes to mental health, you guys know I have been on a healing journey really for the last 3 years, but mainly I've been on a mental health journey for as long as I can remember. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety when I was 14 years old, but I would bet money I could have been diagnosed so much younger than that. Because I remember there would be nights I would just cry myself to sleep as a kid, and I couldn't understand why. I didn't know why. I didn't know why I felt this, extreme just sadness and dread as a fucking 9-year-old. I've craved feeling safe, seen, and heard my entire life. I have craved acceptance my entire life. And we don't have to get into all my daddy issues onto why I have felt all these things that are most likely the reason why. Sorry, but it's true. But it's why I've always dreamt of a partner who falls in love with me for my heart and for my mind. And it's why I've always, made myself so readily available to others and the person that people can come to and the person that people can lean on. But at the end of the day, all that got me in life was people who were nowhere to be found when I needed them. And it's gotten me into some pretty toxic relationships. And I still pride myself on being that person. I still pride myself on being somebody people can turn to, but I'm very selective as to who can turn to me. And I'm selective as to who I am there for, because it is still an emotional expense on my part. And I know not everybody would be there for me the way I am for them. The thing that brought me the most sense of safety, though, in all of this, and the thing that I realized is trusting my intuition and paying attention to things around me, and not in like an over hyper analytical way, but just genuinely paying attention to the way people treat me and trusting my intuition is the thing that's brought me the most sense of peace and the sense of safety. And that goes for anybody who, especially if you're somebody that struggles with anxious attachment, like you're the only person that's going to be able to bring you peace. And you have to do that by trusting yourself. I've talked a lot about the things I've been through and been through a lot in my life, but the thing is just because, and I'm sure there are plenty of people listening who have also been through a lot, but the thing is, just because you've gotten good at carrying things doesn't make it mean it's not heavy. Just because you've gotten used to difficult things doesn't make it any easier. I spent so long carrying my own baggage, I kind of became numb to how heavy a lot of it was. And, when I open up to new people in my life, they'll say like, wow, like I never would have guessed that you've been through so much. And wow, you're so strong. And I used to take such a pride in that. And I still do. I still take pride in how much I've been able to overcome. But at the same time, sometimes being strong is it's so exhausting. And in times in my life when I feel very overwhelmed and the world feels very chaotic, I find myself saying, I'm just tired of going through things. I'm tired of life happening, and I'm tired of going through trauma. I'm tired of it. I'm exhausted. And the reality is being strong is incredibly exhausting. And sometimes it's led me to resent those in my life who seemingly have it easy. But at the end of the day, I have to remind myself, like, I have overcome so much and I don't have to wear those. I don't have to keep carrying it with me anymore. And I know for a lot of people that's easier said than done, but you don't always have to carry it with you. You can let go and heal. And, I've said before that, you don't have to forgive people who aren't saying sorry, and you don't have to forgive those people, but you have to find a way to give yourself peace, whether that's going no contact, accepting the situation. Like sometimes we're the reason that we're not healing. And I did this for a long time. And I think it's part of why I put off going no contact with my dad, because a lot of the times we're still trying to understand why somebody hurt us. We're trying to understand the reasons and the motives for their actions. And you're sitting there trying to fathom how somebody you loved could hurt you so deeply. And so while you don't have to forgive them, you need to stop trying to justify their actions. You need to stop trying to understand their actions, because it's never going to make sense, because you wouldn't have done that to them. What they did will never make sense to you because you would have never done that. And that can be really confusing, and it can make it harder to move on. But the truth is, trying to make sense of whatever it is that's happened is keeping you stuck in your pain. It's keeping you stuck in your wounds. It's keeping you from moving on. And maybe it's even keeping you from a place of being able to forgive them, because it's never going to make sense to you. Why they did what they did doesn't matter. Why they hurt you doesn't matter. What matters is that they hurt you and you would have never done that to them. So you need to move on. And with all of my healing, I kind of realized, while I'm not deep in my depression anymore, while I'm not deep in my anxiety anymore, high functioning depression and high functioning anxiety are so real. And it's part of why healing isn't linear, because it doesn't just, you don't wake up one day and just not want to get out of bed. It creeps up on you slowly. You stop reaching out to people, you stop taking care of yourself, you let your apartment get messy. Maybe you haven't put that basket of laundry away. Like, I'm literally saying this as I have a pile of laundry on my bed that's been sitting there for probably 2 weeks. I am not ashamed to admit that. My mom is probably going to text me and be like, put your laundry away. But that is what high functioning depression and anxiety look like. It'll creep up on you to the point where you're just treading water. You're just in survival mode. And these are the habits that I have implemented in my life that have helped me in times where I feel like I'm just in high functioning depression and anxiety. And I hope maybe some of these habits can help you as well. First things first, I started sleeping with my phone in the other room. I'll put my phone either in my living room or my bathroom, plugged in, alarm on, and it forces me to get out of bed to turn it off in the morning. And by the time, oh, look at that, I'm already up. I've woken up. I don't crawl back into bed. I take this little guy, he's right behind me, take him outside. Before you know it, I'm awake and I'm starting my day. That has been such a shift in my morning. It's crazy how much it impacts my day. Also, weirdly, okay, I know people like think mouth taping is like hokey. It works. I sleep so much deeper and soundly on nights that I use my mouth tape than I don't. I don't know how or why. It just works. And I would seriously encourage you to try it. Something else that I've done is reading more. Taking 30 minutes a day to read. Even on my busiest days, finding something to do for yourself is going to make you go the distance, because you can't be there for anybody else. You can't be a good business owner. You can't be good at your job if you are not taking care of yourself in some regard. Self-care goes, I know it's cliche, but it does really go a long way. So finding pockets of your day that you can put the phone down and take just for you, make all the difference. And that goes into just saying no. No is a complete sentence. And it is okay to say no to hanging out with friends. It is okay to say no to clients who are asking for outside the scope of your original agreement. It's okay to say no to your boss who wants you to take on an extra project if you really don't have the capacity for it. You should not be okay. You should not fear saying no to something. And if you do fear saying no, why is that? Why, are you worried you're going to get fired because you don't want to take on extra work? That's a toxic workplace. Go look for a new job anyways. You are keeping yourself stuck. And this goes back to what I was saying earlier, is sometimes we are the reason our life sucks. I hate to say it, but it's true. I think, sometimes we don't take accountability for ourselves. Sometimes we don't take accountability for a lack of discipline or motivation, or sometimes it's easier to just have a pity party, but no one likes a party pooper. It's crazy too, because like I said, my life changed so much when not only I gave myself permission to start living it and being authentic to myself, but it changed for the better when I stopped, like I said, stopped trying to sit at tables where I knew I wasn't welcome. When I stopped trying to adjust myself to fit in a space where I was so uncomfortable. When I stopped trying to people please my way through life, and just when I cared more about how others perceived me versus how I felt about a situation. That is when my life changed. That is when things got better. That is when I felt younger than ever. And the truth is, in order to, I think, quote unquote, succeed in life, in order to find yourself, you're going to have to accept that you're going to be the villain in some people's stories. There are going to be some people who have a completely different version of events than you. There are going to be some people who are going to criticize you when you no longer grant them access to you. And you have to be okay with that. They're going to find every reason to make you the bad guy in a situation. But at the end of the day, you can't let somebody reap the fruit of your life when they didn't even help you plant the roots. Why are you going to let somebody into your life just because they want, it's very clear when someone wants to be in your life when they just want something from you. And you have to be smart enough to look out for that and listen to your intuition about those kinds of people, because they're not going to just be outright. Some of them are pretty fucking sneaky. And at the end of the day, people show you who they are from the very beginning. You just kind of have to pay attention to it. I'm dealing with a situation like that right now, and it's called a lot of things into question for me, and it's left me feeling confused and anxious. and all of the things. But at the end of the day, I have to trust myself and my judgment. And that's what's going to get me through. And that's what's going to get you through. I've been doing a lot of yapping in this one. And, it's crazy how much of my life has changed since I was that 21-year-old who was so fucking scared for her future and so nervous. And I was still probably a little bit heartbroken over a man. And I just didn't know where life was going to take me. But oh my God, I wish I could just go back and hug her and tell her it was going to be okay. And, I'm going through a lot of my old journals right now and reading some of these old passages. It's crazy to it's really funny reading about guys who I had a crush on or hooked up with or whatever. And I'm like, who is this again? Or friends that I had falling outs with, or I was friends with, and I'm like, who are you again? It's really crazy to look back on those past things. And, I wish I kept up with journaling more, but I'm going to, I think, write down the events of the last 6 years through the current lens just to have. But anyways, all of that to say, so much has changed for me for the best when I graduated college. My 20s now, being 26, are some of my favorite years, but I know that the best is yet to come. And I'm weirdly excited to turn 30 in a couple years. I may come back in a couple years when I'm actually about to turn 30. We'll see if I'm crashing out about it. I want to leave you guys with this question for this episode, because I think it'll kind of help give you a little kick in the ass that you probably need. If you knew you had 20 failures till you reached your goals and your dreams, how quickly would you pick yourself back up after each failure? If you knew how much happiness was on the other side of heartbreak, how soon would you have chosen yourself? And I want to leave you with those two questions because, of course, nothing is guaranteed in life. The future is not guaranteed. Nothing is written in stone. And that should excite you. It shouldn't scare you. You have to give yourself permission to live your life on your own terms. And nobody can do that other than you. And you have to remember that whatever happens in your life, whatever moments happen, it doesn't define your whole life. They're just a moment in your life. Half those moments you'll probably even forget about. And I know the world feels loud and scary. And if you're graduating college, one, congratulations. You absolutely should celebrate it. But whether you're graduating college right now, you've gotten laid off, you're starting a business, whatever it is, do it loudly, do it proudly, do it because you want to. Nothing in life, like I said, is written in stone. And for me, I am so glad that it wasn't, because I wouldn't be the person I am today. And I can't even imagine what the 26-year-old version of myself would look like had I gone to law school instead of moving to Nashville, had I still been with an ex, or we'd broken up down even a little bit down the line. And I still was in Manhattan. I can't imagine what that version of myself would look like. I can't imagine who that woman would be. I don't think she's somebody that I would frankly like. I don't think she is somebody who I would frankly be happy being. And it's really crazy how just a few seemingly small choices really did change the trajectory of my life. Like I said, if you haven't read The Defining Decade by Meg J yet, I will plug that book till I am blue in the face, because it's just so good. It's so insightful. And it really changed the scope of my 20s, I think. Our 20s, I've said this before, but our 20s really are filled with the most grief in our lives, and all different forms of grief. They're confusing, they're messy, they're chaotic, they're just everything that we were told that they wouldn't be. And we were sold the lie of our 20s, but I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. And I'm just so happy with where I'm at today. And I hope somebody listening to this, if you're graduating college and you're so scared, or you feel like, you're looking around, you're like, I don't even like any of these people, or whatever it is, the best it really is yet to come. You haven't had the best day of your life yet. And yeah, I yapped for a good bit. I probably will do an episode talking all about the 1 year of my business, because I feel like there's just so much to kind of dive into there. All the lessons I've learned being an entrepreneur. And all that stuff. But if you have any questions about my business or just running a business, again, I'm not crazy great at it yet, but I've learned a lot. But if you've got any questions about it, you want me to talk about certain things with it, shoot me a DM on the podcast page. It's Instagram at Not the Girl Next Door Podcast. Or our email is there as well. Feel free to email me questions about it. Also, make sure you leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening. And I will see you guys next week for another episode. Bye for now.